I was a foreign student in my final year at a university in Asia, the kind of place where the campus never truly sleeps. Security guards roaming with flashlights, vending machines humming in empty corridors, and media labs that stay unlocked long after most people have gone home. My graduation project was a short documentary, nothing experimental, nothing ambitious, just a clean, human story that could carry me across the finish line. A pediatric oncology nurse introduced us to a little girl who had leukemia. She was small in a way that didn't match her age, like the illness had shaved off parts of her childhood and left only what was necessary. When we first met, she sat upright in her bed, with a blanket pulled to her chest, hair combed carefully, as if she could make herself look healthy through discipline. Her parents were exhausted. The nurse was blunt with us. Keep the crew minimal, don't stay long, don't treat her like content. We tried to do everything right. We filmed her drawing at a little plastic table. We filmed the quiet routine of the ward, medicine carts, soft footsteps, curtains sliding open and shut. We recorded her voice when she felt strong enough to talk, and we stopped with her face tightened with fatigue. Through it all, she was almost unnervingly polite. She thanked the nurse when the nurse adjusted her pillow. She thanked her mother for cutting an apple. She thanked us for moving a chair. A child shouldn't have to be that careful with gratitude, but she was, like she'd learned early that adults liked you better when you made yourself easy to handle. On our last filming day, I was packing the mic cables when she called my name, not loudly, not urgently, just enough to pull me back. I turned, expecting another question for the camera. Instead, she looked at me with a seriousness that didn't belong in a hospital room decorated with cartoon stickers. "Can you tell everyone," she said, "that I want to thank them properly?" "Properly?" I repeated, smiling the way adults do when a child says something sweet. "The older students," she said, "the ones who helped me. I want to say thank you where they can hear it." I nodded. Of course. I said something light, something like, "We can show them your film and they'll hear it." And she smiled, but her smile didn't relax. It stayed careful, like she wasn't sure my answer counted. Then the nurse came in and asked us to leave before she got tired. I didn't think about that conversation again until it was too late to pretend it hadn't happened. A week later, the deadline pressure hit like a wall. Other classes, final reviews, endless checklists. I slept at odd hours and ate at worse ones. The only time I could concentrate was late at night, when the campus became a ghost town of fluorescent lighting and locked doors. So I picked a night to edit. It was already past midnight when I walked into the media lab. The air smelled like warm plastic and dust. Rows of computers sat under dim ceiling panels. My footsteps felt too loud on the tile. I told myself I was lucky. No distractions, no classmates, no one hovering over my shoulder. I sat down, plugged in my drive, and opened the project. The timeline loaded, her interviews, B-roll of the ward, the little moments that made the story feel real. At first, everything behaved. Then, without warning, one clit stuttered. It was a close-up of her face as she tried to smile for the camera. The playhead moved, then hesitated, like the software couldn't decide what came next. The audio waveform on the track beneath it spiked for half a second, an ugly vertical line, the kind you get when someone breathes too close to the mic or bumps it. I replayed that moment. Nothing. Clean room tone. No bump, no breath. I frowned at the screen, checked the file properties, and told myself it was just the program lagging. Deadlines make you generous with excuses. After an hour, my eyes started burning from the light. I stood up to stretch and felt the sudden urge to use the bathroom, the kind that hits when you're finally not thinking about your body. The bathroom near the lab was old and always slightly damp. The light inside flickered once when I pushed the door open. I went into a stall, shut the door, and tried to unwind my thoughts. That's when I saw the feet. Under the divider panel, beneath the thin metal wall between stalls, were two small shoes, child-sized, placed neatly, toes forward, close together, as if whoever wore them was sitting with perfect posture. For a second, my brain refused to process it. I stared, waiting for the feet to shuffle, for the shoes to turn, for the inevitable sound of someone shifting on the toilet. Nothing moved. There were no other sounds in the bathroom, no sink running, no stall doors, no phone scrolling, not even breathing, just the steady buzz of fluorescent light and my own pulse in my ears. It made no sense. The media building was used by university students. Even the staff didn't bring children here at midnight, and even if a child had somehow wandered in, why would they be so still? My first reaction was irrational shame, as if I'd walked into the wrong place and gotten caught. My second reaction was fear sharp enough to sour my mouth. I finished quickly, stepped out of the stall, and washed my hands while staring at the mirror, instead of the stalls behind me. I did not look down again. When I left the bathroom, I told myself it had to be a misunderstanding. A short person, a weird angle, a prank, anything. The corridor back to the lab felt longer, the air felt colder, the silence felt thicker, like the building had stopped making the small normal noises it was supposed to make. When I reached the media lab, the door was slightly open. I paused with my hand hovering over the handle. I was certain I'd closed it. Inside, the room looked the same. Rows of monitors, dark chairs, the faint glow of a few standby lights. But my chair was angled slightly away from the desk, not the way I'd left it. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't thrown across the room, just wrong enough to make my stomach tighten. I forced myself to step in. I sat down, put my hand on the mouse, and the computer froze instantly. Not a small lag, not a hiccup, a hard freeze, as if someone had grabbed the machine by the throat. The cursor stopped moving. The timeline stopped. The screen locked on a single frame. Her face, close up, hospital light draining color from her skin, eyes reflecting the camera, and she was smiling. But the smile didn't look like the one I remembered. It was too flat, too held, as if it had been pinned in place. I clicked. Nothing. I pressed escape. Nothing. I tried to force close the program. Nothing. The fans inside the tower surged, loud and sudden, like the machine was fighting something it didn't understand. I stared at the frozen frame, and my mind did something I hated. It started searching for meaning. The longer I stared, the more the smile stopped looking like a child trying to be brave. It looked like she was waiting for me to recognize her. The screen flickered once, and for a heartbeat, I thought her eyes shifted, just slightly, as if she wasn't looking at the camera anymore, as if she was looking at me. Then, the computer rebooted by itself. The monitor went black. The fans dropped to a normal hum. The login screen appeared like nothing had happened. My hands were damp on the mouse. I logged back in, reopened the project, and tried to laugh at myself for being dramatic. Then I saw the timeline. A huge portion of my edit was gone, not moved, not muted, not hidden, gone. The segment I'd spent hours cutting, interviews threaded together, music carefully placed, transitions smoothed, had vanished as if I'd never touched it. I checked the files, I checked the bins, I checked the autosave folder. The autosave that should have saved me threw an error. The backup file refused to open. A normal person would panic about losing work. I panicked in a different way, because the missing section was the part where she talked about gratitude, where she thanked the nurses, where she thanked her parents, where she looked into the lens and tried to say something meaningful while her body was failing her. And now it was just erased. I sat there, trying to force logic back into my head. Drive failure, corruption, bad luck. But my mind kept drifting to the shoes under the bathroom divider, child-sized, still, waiting. I picked up my phone and called one of my classmates from the crew. It was late enough that I expected voicemail. He answered on the third ring, voice thick with sleep, irritated. "What?" he mumbled. "I'm in the lab," I said, and hated how thin my voice sounded. "Did you come here earlier? Did anyone bring a kid into the building?" A pause. "A kid?" he repeated, more awake now. "What are you talking about?" "No one's there." I swallowed. "Something's wrong with the project. The footage." Another pause, longer. Then his voice dropped. "You didn't hear," he said. "Hear what?" He exhaled slowly, like he didn't want to be the one to say it. "She died," he said. My throat closed. I couldn't speak for a second, like the words had blocked the air. "When?" I finally managed. 7 nights ago," he said. "Her parents called the nurse. The nurse told us. I thought you knew." I stared at the timeline on my screen until the lines and blocks blurred. 7 nights. I looked at the date at the corner of my monitor, and my stomach sank when the math lined up. Tonight was the 7th night. And here, in the local Chinese community, that 7th night isn't just a week later. People believe the first 7 days after someone dies are a crossing period, like the person is still finding their way, still close enough to home and the living world to be felt. Families keep lights on, avoid certain things, and some will visit graves or leave offerings on that 7th day because it matters. It's a marker, a final checkpoint, a night for goodbyes, sometimes for unfinished words. I didn't know the rituals well. I wasn't from here, but I'd been in Asia long enough to understand that the first week after someone passes is not treated like any other week. The air around those days carries weight. My classmate said my name again, asking if I was okay, but his voice sounded far away. After I hung up, I sat in the hum of the lab and remembered what she'd told me on our last day. I want to say thank you properly, where they can hear it. I hadn't listened. I'd treated it like a sweet line for the film, and now on the seventh night, my timeline was missing the part where she thanked anyone at all. I left the lab. I didn't shut down the computer. I didn't pack my drive. I just walked out into the hallway as if I could outrun the feeling that the building had turned its attention toward me. The next morning, our crew met up. We looked older than a group of students had any right to look. Red eyes, stiff shoulders, guilty silence. We brought simple things: flowers, fruit, a small card. We went to pay respects the way we'd seen others do it. No speeches, no dramatics, just quiet. When it was my turn, I stood there and felt stupid for how hard it was to speak. I said her name. I said thank you, not into a microphone, not into a camera, just into the air where the words could go somewhere other than a hard drive. That night, I went back to the media lab. The hallway lights were steady, no flickering, no strange quiet beyond the usual quiet of a late campus. The lab door was closed. My chair sat perfectly aligned with the desk. I sat down and opened the project. The missing segment was back, not partially recovered, not scrambled. Perfect. Every cut exactly where I'd left it. Every transition intact. Even the music timing, the tiny adjustments I remembered making at 3 a.m. last week. Unchanged. I checked the autosave folder. The corrupted file opened without complaint, like it had never been broken. I sat there staring at the screen, waiting for the relief to arrive. It didn't, because there was a new file in the bin. Untitled, no thumbnail, a clip that didn't match any of our camera labels. 1 second long. I clicked it. Her face filled the monitor. Close up, hospital lighting, same angle we'd shot a dozen times, but the expression was different. This smile wasn't held in place like a mask. It was soft, loose, like the weight behind it had finally lifted. There was no dialogue, no music, just room tone. Then, right at the end, the audio waveform spiked once, a clean single peak, like someone exhaled near the mic. I didn't replay it. I couldn't make myself. I finished the documentary. I graduated. I took photos with friends and shook hands with professors, and acted like my world was the normal kind of stressful. A few months later, I went back to my home country. Time did what time always does. It sanded down the sharpest parts of the memory until I could tell the story without my voice cracking. But I still think about that night whenever I'm alone at a screen editing something quiet. I still think about the child-sized shoes under the bathroom divider, perfectly still. I still think about the computer freezing on her pale smile. And I still don't know which explanation I hate more, that it was all just a glitch, bad software, exhaustion, a corrupted autosave that randomly healed itself, or that the thank you she wanted to deliver didn't reach the people she meant it for until the seventh night, when someone finally stood still long enough to hear it.